one of the most powerful civil service units in the country, who were able to intercept suspects' phone calls. A unit with so much muscle the police were jealous. You might think the police were the UK's #1 law enforcement agency. You'd be wrong. Part of Her Majesty's Treasury, we were driven by a far higher motivational force than just fighting crime. We went after the money. There had been a high-speed car chase and even a break into an empty office block so we could keep better surveillance on specific targets during the investigation. Now that we were at the point of arrest, though, the last thing we needed was any kind of complication. There was always a suspicion that the Americans would jump the gun with their arrests and not bother telling us. We never took anything for granted. All I could think was, what if Barkser was spooked and had fled his house? Could you imagine the fallout? A massive international operation, and we lost one of Pablo Escobar's bankers. It didn't bear thinking about. This was why I had asked Steve Berry, a senior officer and one of our most experienced operatives, to spend the night outside the target's house. If the target tried to flee, Steve was waiting for him. But he was on his own. What if the target had spotted him and escaped by a back route? Should I have been there? This would be a colossal cock-up. I could see the headlines. Massive sting operation. Brits lose drugs banker. I wouldn't know what happened, if anything, until control phoned me back. I got ready to leave, then waited impatiently, pacing the floor. The phone rang again. At least I was more awake than I was 10 minutes ago. Tango 1 has been arrested. Proceed to his HA. I could breathe more easily. That was code for Barkser's home address, a modest semi-detached house in Brent Cross, North London. He must have made a run for it. Probably thought he had a chance. I could picture Steve pouncing the moment he stepped out the front door. He'd be on his way to Bishopsgate Police Station, where my boss and I would begin questioning him about what he knew about his nefarious clients. Who else did the BCCI bank do business with? From what we'd discovered, they were not fussy about who opened an account with them. I was still very much in the dark, though, about what had happened that night. With the uniforms, information was only passed on a need-to-know basis. We kept phone calls brief. Who knew who could be listening? We knew all too well how easy it was to bug a line. What I did know was that for Barkser to flee, he must have got a call. That could only mean the US takedown had been to some degree successful. I left my digs in Tottenham. The streets were practically deserted. At that time on a Sunday morning, I expected nothing else. It was probably what Barkser was praying for, that he could have slipped away into the night. In 20 minutes, I arrived at the banker's house. If everything had gone to plan, I'd have been there at 6 for the knock at 7:30 a.m. Joining me would have been my immediate boss, Bruce Leatheran. He'd been the link with the Americans. A nice little number, as it meant he'd been back and forth to Florida making sure everything ran smoothly from Azore. Now, with the Tango arrested, it was a waste of time him meeting me there. Steve was long gone with the suspect. The Americans claimed he was already banged to rights. Mazur got him on tape and had his own receipt for the cash transfer. But we wanted to find more evidence of the transaction, so there was less room for his lawyer to claim it was a stitch-up. As I arrived, the house was a hive of quiet industry. A couple of officers stood outside, while I suspected others were inside beginning their search. I stepped into what was an otherwise unremarkable semi in a London suburb. It was handy for the tube. Brent Cross shopping centre was visible from the window. I was not sure what I expected from a criminal banker. Ostentatious furniture, some garish artworks. The house was probably rented, as there were few signs of a personal touch. No picture frames or bookshelves. I briefed the team on what to look for. Any computers, diaries, filofaxes, personal files. We'd take all that. If there was $100,000 in notes stuffed under the mattress, we'd take that too. But from what we'd seen from watching Barkser for the past few months, there would be none of that. He looked like the meticulous sort, a creature of habit.